Santa Clara Valley you see today has undergone dramatic changes over the past 200 years. Campbell, once referred to as the Orchard City, is almost unrecognizable today. Yet it is determined to hold on to its fruitful past. The Ohlone were the first people to live among the trees and along the many streams that once crossed the valley floor.
It is a time when there is no San Francisco Bay. It is a time when California is all green. There is no golden hills. In fact, there are no golden hills right up till the time of the Spanish contact. The Ohlones were a distribution of autonomous and yet interrelated tribes that went from San Francisco all the way down to Monterey. And the name Ohlone is a misnomer for a kind of a catch-all. They originally were classified by the Spanish as costeños, people of the coast.
The Ohlone way of life was changed forever with the arrival of the Spanish missionaries in the late 1700s and the establishment of Mission de Santa Clara de Asís. The missionaries brought change to the landscape with the introduction of Mediterranean fruits and cattle. The Spanish padres planted apples, pears, peaches, apricots, and plums, along with wheat, to sustain the cattle.
So after the missionization, or at the time of missionization, the Spaniards kept records of which districts, which tribal groups or rancherias, various neophytes were baptized from. And what we see is a dynamic going on between the West Bay and the East Bay and the South Bay. And this became a large ceremonial interaction sphere for the last 1,000 years.
They were soon followed by Californios from Mexico, who divided the land into vast ranchos with cattle roaming freely through the valley. When the word went out that gold was discovered in 1849, many newcomers began migrating to the fertile soil of the Santa Clara Valley, forever changing this peaceful setting. One pioneer was William Campbell, who brought his family west from Kentucky in 1846. His son Benjamin founded the town of Campbell. Together with his wife Mary, they put down roots in the new town by building a farmhouse and by growing wheat and alfalfa. The driveway to their ranch house is now known as Campbell Avenue.
The people who settled here initially, I think, came to realize quickly that they could follow their dreams. They had a temperate climate, they had an abundance of natural resources, and they were able to ask the question, what if we tried this? And it worked.
Before the turn of the 20th century, orchards sprang up throughout the Santa Clara Valley. The area became known as the Valley of the Heart's Delight. The entrepreneurial spirit of the valley gave birth to a new industry for Campbell: fruit processing. Early Campbell residents J.C. Ainsley, George Hyde, and Pearlie Payne were a few of the industrial pioneers who built fruit canneries that were models of efficiency in their day. The completion of the Campbell Depot in 1886 allowed farmers to transport their fruit goods across the country and to the world. By the 1900s, the invention of new canning machinery brought rapid industrialization and automation to the valley. Fruit growers organized into cooperatives and associations to better market their fruit to the canneries, a practice soon copied in other parts of the state. Employment opportunities attracted new groups of immigrants, adding diversity to the population, which we still see today.
The valley was absolutely gorgeous, and when the fruit was blooming, there was brilliant colors everywhere. And there was the smells too, and we also had mustard growing everywhere because they grew the yellow mustard all under the orchards. So it was brilliant. It really was brilliant.
Women, as well as men, worked in the canneries and the orchards. The canneries were ahead of their time, providing hot meals, housing for seasonal workers, and daycare for the children of working women.
I was a small child at the time, and we were able to play in the orchards in the spring when the mustard came up. It was beautiful, and you could run all day long and nobody worried about you, and we could make forts and try to find each other in the mustard by rolling around in the grass.
Campbell continued to grow, establishing public services, telephones, schools, a library, and even this used to be the volunteer fire department. Many of these businesses were housed in buildings that still stand today in downtown Campbell. Like the rest of the nation, Campbell struggled through the Great Depression. In the baby boom years of the 1950s, the face of the valley continued to evolve. By 1952, the city was finally incorporated after the voters rejected the move 3 times before. As the 21st century approached, the valley once again experienced a new innovation that would change the landscape forever. Just as cattle and wheat fields gave way to orchards and canneries, suburbia and Silicon took root in Campbell.
Well, I think it was a gradual change. Sometimes it's hard to identify exactly why and how it changed, but I think there came a time when there were probably more opportunities for the younger generation to either find jobs elsewhere, they had other interests, they had greater opportunities to go to college or trade school or some other type of education, and they felt that agriculture maybe was not the thing they wanted to do. And there were those kind of changes, I think, that took place. And so gradually then, as more people moved into the area, there was a little bit bigger demand and opportunity for farmers now to think about selling their property, which they would have never thought of before, because it usually got passed from parent to child, etc. But as I said, as the younger generation, at least when I grew up, felt there were other opportunities, we had less interest in farms. And as our parents and grandparents got older, and as the opportunity presented itself, they felt it was time to sell. So one by one, little by little, properties were sold and there was some development. It was fairly small, but it gradually happened, and then that meant that agriculture kind of had to move elsewhere.
This new change took root in 1885 with the founding of Stanford University to advance higher learning in the valley. Stanford fostered innovation and collaboration with early electronic companies to develop new technologies that would revolutionize the world. As the landscape transformed from orchards to business parks, companies took advantage of available land, high-tech engineering replaced the canneries, and the manufacturing of integrated circuits and semiconductors replaced the fruit processing and growing.
The major universities around here, such as Stanford and Santa Clara and Berkeley, all the intellectual brain power, they're the ones that started up all these innovative companies that led the way, and it attracted smart people that came out here, and the people came out here, liked the lifestyle just like my father did when he first came here.
The United States Defense Department heavily invested in these technologies. In 1933, the government purchased 1,000 acres to establish a naval air station at Moffett Field in Sunnyvale. This military base would become the Ames facility. The Ames Research Center and NASA contributed to the space missions. Companies such as Fairchild Semiconductor brought a new crop to the valley, the silicon chip. In addition to companies like Apple, Intel, IBM, and HP, a revolution began in personal computing and technology that spawned a new name for the Santa Clara Valley, Silicon Valley. And it all began here. The 1990s brought about a little thing you guys might have heard about, the internet.
ARPANET first connected 4 computers at California and Utah campuses using a new networking technique. It allowed researchers to run programs on remote computers.
By 1990, the network, by then known as the Internet, had developed to the point where ARPANET was no longer a significant part of it. So ARPA dropped out, and organizations such as the National Science Foundation started maintaining the Internet. And for the first time, commercial users began joining it.
The increase of internet use led to the foundation of many of the big companies we know today. Between 1995 and 2009, companies like eBay, Yahoo, Netflix, Google, PayPal, Tesla, Facebook, YouTube, and Uber were established. Heard any of those? All of their headquarters are within a short drive from Campbell, meaning we live in the epicenter of the fast-changing digital universe.
People like living in this valley. So with the attitude of innovation, with the opportunities to go to school here, and with people coming here for that purpose, I think that's the real reason why this valley exists as a valley of innovation.
It's all different now because the computers have totally taken over. But we innovate to something new all the time. We started out as farmland and dairies and orchards and chickens and all that type of stuff. And then we went from that to some different kind of innovative companies that came in. And then when the computer and all of that started coming out, and of course now we've got all the social media, it seems to me we reinvent ourselves at least every 20 years, if not 15. We're great at reinventing this valley. And I don't perceive it changing. I don't know how it's going to reinvent next time.
For generations, the Santa Clara Valley has lured its native Californians, immigrants, and innovators with its promise of opportunity and success. The natural bounty of the valley helped shape Campbell's past, and the innovation of technology fuel its potential. Today, another generation is poised for Campbell's future.